Welcome, everybody. We are so delighted you are all here, and we are so honored by your presences as we birth this incredible book, Radical Loving, into the world. As with any good birthing, this book has been a labor of love, literally. It has been a long time coming, and those of you who know Rabbi Wayne and his life work know that this is the book of his heart and his soul and his might. Of all of his books, it is this one that most beautifully holds the gorgeous rainbow wisdom of his essence and expresses the deepest longings of his being for a world of peace, for Eden on earth. We are so grateful to Paul Cohen and Monkfish Publishing for sharing this vision and taking on this project. Rabbi Wayne loves, and so he is blessed with myriad beautiful good friends, soul brothers and sisters all around the world. You'll meet some of his friends today in the course of this program. And one of our dearest friends, Annie Klein of Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, has blessed us by agreeing to hostess this publication party. Annie is so multi-talented, it would take a whole book just to list her accomplishments among so much else. Annie is an international speaker, teacher of Reb Zalman Shlomi Schechter's work, Aging to Saging, and she is a magnificent soul memory discovery facilitator. And so it is with great delight that I now turn this lovely day over to Annie.
Thank you, Ellen. It is such a great honor for me to be your hostess, Master of Ceremonies, for the publication of Rabbi Wayne's already highly acclaimed book, Radical Loving. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all here for a very exciting, inspiring afternoon. We are so glad that you are here to celebrate with us. I first met Rabbi Wayne and Ellen in 2004 at Ruach HaAretz, a retreat in Hope, British Columbia. And meeting them truly was life-changing, even though I think that term is terribly overused. It really was life-changing for me. We became fast friends. I became a soul memory discovery facilitator, and in 2008, even moved to San Diego to help promote 20-Minute Kabbalah, which had just been published. I have been so blessed to have Rabbi Wayne and Ellen as my friends, teachers, and mentors. When I first read Radical Loving, it reminded me of Ramona Quimby. Ramona was one of the late acclaimed children's authors, Beverly Clearly's iconic characters. And this was in the 1950s. And Ramona was a true free spirit, always in trouble. One day, after a particularly naughty incident, her exasperated mother says, "Ramona, Ramona, what am I going to do with you?" And Ramona answers, "Love me." And isn't that what all our marginalized individuals need and want? And so thank goodness we have Radical Loving. Thank you, Rabbi Wayne. We're going to begin with a kavanah, a spiritual intention given by a core member of the Elijah Minyan and one of Rabbi Wayne and Ellen's spirit buddies, Judith Leaf.
Thank you, Annie. Rabbi Dosick teaches us that the human heart is a portal straight to God. When we love, we see God's face in every person and in all of the myriad aspects of creation. Beauty and gratitude surround us. Radical loving enables us to experience our greatest potential as human beings and co-creators, co-creative partners with God. In the flow of the endless love that sources each of us, we access the answers and solutions to the challenges that confront our world. May the message of radical loving reach out around our planet and help release the fear, misunderstanding, and prejudice which divide our human family and damage our ability to steward the earth. May we recognize God's presence in ourselves, in each other, and in our world, so that each and every one of us becomes the blessing that we are born to be.
Amen.
Amen.
Seeing the face of God, 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 reflecting the light of God, reflecting the love of God, seeing the face of God in you, seeing the face of God, reflecting the light of God, reflecting the love of God, seeing the face of God in you, seeing the face of God.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. Rabbi Wayne has dedicated Radical Loving to the blessed memory of Elie Wiesel. The dedication reads, "To the holy memory of Elie Wiesel, witness of the destruction, teller of the tale, restorer of the broken, conscience of the generation, voice of the silent, laureate of peace." Cantor Deborah Katchko-Gray was one of Elie Wiesel's most dedicated students at Boston University, beginning with the very first class that Professor Wiesel ever taught there. This led to a student-teacher and collegial relationship, then to a deep friendship that lasted for the rest of Wiesel's life. She often sings the songs and melodies that Mr. Wiesel taught her that he remembered from his pre-Holocaust days in his Hasidic shtetl. Cantor Debbie is one of the very first women cantors in America, following in the cantorial footsteps of her grandfather and father before her. And she is the founder of the Women's Cantors Network. She has served Congregation Shir Shalom in Richfield, Connecticut since 1999. To speak of her teacher and the dedication of this book to him, here through technological magic is Cantor Deborah Katchko-Gray.
Say something.
Denny, we can't hear.
Surely one of the greatest teachers.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Cantor Deborah Kachko-Gray, and I'm so honored to have been asked by Rabbi Wayne Dosick to speak a little bit about our teacher, Elie Wiesel of blessed memory. I'm thrilled that Rabbi Dosick has chosen to dedicate his new book to the memory of Elie Wiesel. Surely one of the greatest teachers of our generation, and I believe a reluctant prophet of our times. His teachings are so profound, and I remember as a student being so moved that someone who could have seen the worst in humanity could come out and want to help the entire world to speak out against injustice and certainly genocide wherever it occurred in the world, and be a particularly proud Jew, someone who loved Israel, who was able to be a modern Orthodox Jew, and someone who was involved in the entire world to seek justice and speak out against evil wherever it occurred. So I'm continually inspired by my teacher, and I'm thrilled that Rabbi Dosick has chosen to dedicate his new book to the spirit of Elie Wiesel and the teachings of Elie Wiesel. I'd like to offer a song that was actually his favorite, a Vishnitzer melody to Ani Mani, one that he grew up with and one that he sang often. And of course, it's so moving to hear Elie Wiesel sing it, but I will sing it as I heard him sing it and offer this to you, Rabbi Dosick, and thanks for all you do for all of us to raise us up. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema. I should say what Ani ma'amin means. I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, and even if the Messiah is delayed, I still believe and I will wait. B'viat HaMashiach, b'viat HaMashiach, ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema. B'viat HaMashiach, b'viat HaMashiach, ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema. B'viat HaMashiach, v'afal pi she'etmamea, im kol zeh ani ma'amin. V'afal pi she'etmamea, אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא.
Wow.
Thank you. And thank you to technology that we were able to do that. Radical Loving is published by Monkfish Publishing Company in Rhinebeck, New York. Paul Cohen is the founder and publisher of Monkfish, about whom Rabbi Wayne has written. This is a publishing house dedicated to bringing the world of spirit into our lives. Paul Cohen is the embodiment of all that his company professes. He is a thinker and a feeler, a pragmatic practitioner, and an inspired visionary. He has assembled an outstanding staff of enthused lovers of books of spirit. Above all, he's a real mensch, a gentleman and a gentleman. It is an honor, Rabbi Wayne says, to be a monkfish author. From Rhinebeck, New York, it is a pleasure to welcome Paul Cohen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to publish Rabbi Wayne's book, and I'm thrilled to see all of you here to help us celebrate the grand occasion of the book's publication. Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you to all of you.
Paul, did you want to say anything more?
No, that's all I really wanted to say. Could you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Great.
Sure.
Great. Rabbi Wayne and Ellen love the traditional music of the synagogue, and especially chant, which they have introduced to the worship services over the years. Chanting moves us to the unconscious places in our psyches where we feel the connection to all that is, to the infinite, to the divine. It creates the channel for the flow between us and God, taking us to the heights of our mystic quest and to the deepest of our hearts and souls. To accompany Radical Loving, Rabbi Wayne, Ellen, and cantor Kathy Robbins have recorded 21 chants available both as downloads from various sources and as this hard copy CD. These chants are all in English, some as liberal translations from the original Hebrew scripture or liturgy, and some composed by Rabbi Wayne and Ellen. The melodies are borrowed, with proper copyright permission, of course, from liturgical and folk tunes. You have already heard cantor Kathy Robbins, who serves as cantor for the Elijah Minyan, and whose sweet voice gives beauty and animation to the recording, sing one of the signature chants, Sing the Face of God. Now for this book about radical loving, she sings, Greatest Love, Eternal Love.
With greatest love, eternal love, greatest love, eternal love, greatest love, eternal love, greatest love, eternal love. With greatest love, eternal love, greatest love, eternal love, greatest love, eternal love, greatest love, eternal love. Yai, bye, bye, yai, bye. Yai, bye, 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 bye.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you. One of our greatest spiritual elders is Rabbi Leah Novick. Rev Leah has spent a lifetime in social activism, politics, government, academia, and for the last number of decades in spiritual guidance and leadership. She is highly acclaimed for being the pioneer voice in making us all aware of the re-emerging presence of the Shekhinah, the divine feminine, and the need to heal the world through the melding of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, both in the heavens and as above, so below, here on earth. Her book, On the Wings of Shekhinah, Rediscovering Judaism's Divine Feminism, Divine Feminine, is considered the authoritative teaching and guide to lead us to the loving power of the Shekhinah. Rabbi Wayne and Ellen turned to her as one of their profound spiritual teachers. From her home in Carmel by the Sea, California, here is Rabbi Leah Novick.
Wow. I feel like you should put that on my tombstone. So this wonderful book lays out a path for the future where all the wisdom traditions are open and available. And although I have written a review of the book and love talking about the book, I wanted to do something different with you here today because we have such amazing souls congregated. And what I want you to do with me is to give Ellen and Wayne a blessing for the future, drawing on a blessing from the past. We're going to do the priestly blessing that was done in Qumran among the communities that are responsible for the Dead Sea Scrolls. You can sit or stand. You can raise your hands in the priestly blessing mode if you wish. And the reason I ask you to do this is so that we can send Ellen and Wayne on the road, so to speak, with this book, with optimal health, with deepening intellect, surrounded by great friendship, and instrumental in creating a world at peace. And so the first, you will listen, the words are similar to the priestly blessing and then quite different. So we say to Ellen and Wayne, Yivarechecha b'chol tov, may you be blessed with all goodness. V'yishmerecha mikol ra, and protected from all negativity. V'ya'er libech b'seichel chayim, may your hearts be illuminated with living wisdom. V'yachoncha b'dat ha'olamim, may you be graced with the knowledge of all dimensions, all worlds. V'yisa p'necha stav lecha l'shlom ha'olamim, may the divine love so imbue you that you move forward as instruments of universal peace. And let us say, Amen. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may it be.
Amen.
That all of the joy and the love and the caring and the generosity and the depth that you give to others may come back to you 1,000 times over and help in the dissemination of all the wisdom in this book that is an equal opportunity source. It is full of marvelous anecdotes. It is enlightened by terrific stories. A Hebrew song will alternate with a story from a Native American chief, and a quote from a Hasidic Rebbe gets as much attention as a story about Mahatma Gandhi. Wayne has a universally inspired mind with a well of knowledge that reflects an equal opportunity intellect. Clearly competent when he is quoting from Torah or New Testament, he teaches us we are the children of one divine parent, and that parent speaks to us in many languages. Wayne provides processes drawn from soul memory, honoring Ellen's work, dealing with the challenge of ancestral healing, and so many other issues. He reminds us always when he quotes from Talmud or from UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld, he knows how to use both sacred and secular to dig into everything that affirms his deeply held belief that radical loving can indeed transform the world. He translates holiness into right action and connects world peace to everything, including his childhood playground instructions from his parents. My usual expectation of a book from Wayne is to anticipate great scholarship that will be very visible. It was so refreshing to find this new offering from him, who we know he is prolific. We know he has put in many years of study, but he has indeed transubstantiated all of that knowledge into an inspired and universal message of hope and optimism. We know that you didn't start this book during the pandemic. It preceded the pandemic. But the prevailing message is one of supreme optimism and belief in the goodness of human beings, which we have learned profoundly during this pandemic. I admire you for not demanding rigid discipline and austerity in your call for human transformation. You offer instead sensible, doable, meaningful advice on conducting a life that will help sustain the planet and all the species on Earth. I pray that we are all up to listening deeply to what you have taught us and taking it not only to heart, but into our hands and into our walking feet. May you carry the blessing from this day into the deployment of this book. We know that this is a book that you can give to anybody, literally. It doesn't require a PhD or a commitment to a particular religion. It just requires an open heart. God bless you for doing it.
Thank you.
Holy, holy, Kadosh, Kadosh, holy, holy, Sanctus, Sanctus, holy, holy, awesome holiness, holy, holy, awesome holiness, holy, holy, awesome holiness, holy, holy, awesome holiness. Holy, holy, awesome holiness, holy, holy, awesome holiness.
Thank you, Cantor. Is Thane Rosenbaum here? Did he make it onto this Zoom? No, we don't hear from Thane.
Thane, if you're here, if you'll unmute yourself, that would be amazing, because then we can pin you.
don't hear Thane. All right. So Cantor, can you tell us about how to make a perfect world?
I sure can, and you can sing along.
Okay.
Great.
To perfect the world in the name of God, to perfect the world in the name of God, to perfect the world in the name of God, to make a perfect world. To perfect the world in the name of God, to perfect the world in the name of God, to perfect the world in the name of God, to make a perfect world. To perfect the world in the name of God, to make a perfect world.
Thank you. Another of Rabbi Wayne's contemporary literary brothers is John Sweeney. The rabbi and John first met when John was the associate publisher at Jewish Light Publishing and the publisher of its Skylight Press. He himself is the author of more than 40 books on a wide variety of scholarly and popular topics, mostly in the religious and spiritual realms. The biographer of St. Francis of Assisi and translations of his writings, which, get this book fans, have sold more than 200,000 copies. Wow. And for literary fun, he has written a series of children's books in which his cat meets the Pope. His newest book, Thomas Merton, Introduction to His Life and Teachings, was published just 2 weeks ago. Deeply devoted to his own Catholic faith, he is a deep ecumenist, committed to interreligious dialogue and advocating understanding and cooperation between faith communities. In living testimony to his love of interfaith dialogue, he is even married to a rabbi. So here from Milwaukee, Wisconsin is John Sweeney.
All right, now can you hear me okay?
Yep.
It's a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for that introduction. Whenever someone introduces me in such a generous way, but including those autobiographical details, I can't help but sit here thinking to myself, I sound so screwed up. But anyway, it's a pleasure to be with you. I want to say just a couple of words about Rabbi Wayne's book. I loved this book from the moment I began to read it, which was about a year ago. I love its optimism, its aspirational quality, its second naivete, if you know what I mean by that. I hope you know what I mean by that, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And its bold leap into the world of the Spirit. That Spirit or Lord or God or Shekinah or Holy One is the same for all of us who believe with our lives that there is an essential meaning to life, that we participate in it, and that the world will one day be transformed by it and by us. May it happen. I also loved this book because, as Annie mentioned, I've known Rabbi Wayne for a little bit more than 20 years. I looked it up this morning. It was 22 years ago right now, Wayne, I wonder if you remember this, that you and I started to talk on the phone and email because at Jewish Lights, we had just published Soul Judaism, and I had arranged to have it promoted in a really big way in Canada through the Chapters bookstore chain, which at that time was sort of Barnes and Noble of Canada. And yeah. I remember you and I had a lot of back and forth, but can you believe that is 22 years ago? So anyway, it has been a pleasure to follow your career and to read you and to know you and to talk with you occasionally. My own journey was that, yes, I was the vice president of marketing at Jewish Lights Publishing. I was the Goyish vice president of marketing at Jewish Lights, and how strange is that? But even stranger, perhaps, is that I left that job and that place in 2004. And since then, I've worked mostly in Catholic publishing, but still with a deep heart for the interspiritual and the multi-faith. But then 5 years later, after leaving Jewish Lights, I asked a rabbi out on a date. And I ended up getting married to a rabbi. And my wife is a Reconstructionist, and she likes to call me a Rebbitsman. And if I say that to my Catholic friends, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But of course, you understand what I'm saying. So I also loved this book because I imagine that Rabbi Wayne wrote it not as a logical next step in a writing career, and not as the logical next step in his scholarly or rabbinic career. Instead, I see it in the light of that second naivete that I mentioned earlier. We all begin in naivete as children, and then we unlearn it. We become cynics, we become realists, we become pragmatists. It goes by many different names. But then I believe the wise ones eventually return to a second naivete or simplicity, a calm, knowing, patient, inclusive, and self-forgetful understanding of the world, and in this case, of the divine. Such a gift helps us move beyond anger and alienation and ignorance. And I believe that this is the very goal of mature adulthood and mature religion. And may it one day happen to me. As Rabbi Heschel said, the word of God never comes to an end. No word is God's last word. And Rabbi Wayne quotes those lines in Radical Loving, and I cheer at this reminder. I actually believe that Radical Loving may make me a better human being. And there's no higher praise that I can give to a book. So thank you, Rabbi Wayne, and thanks for having me here today.
Thank you.
Blessings and gratitude to you, Anochi. Blessings and gratitude to you, Anochi. Now and forever to you, Anochi. Now and forever to you, Anochi. Blessings and gratitude to you, Anochi. Blessings and gratitude to you, Anochi. Now and forever to you, Anochi. Now and forever to you, Anochi. Yai dai yai dai 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 yai dai ya bye 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 ya da 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 yai yai bye 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai dai yai dai yai bye bye yai diggy dai dai dai. Blessings and gratitude to you, Anochi. Blessings and gratitude to you, Anochi. Now and forever to you, Anochi. Now and forever to you, Anochi.
Thank you. Now entering its 30th year, wow, 30 years, the Elijah Minyan, which Rabbi Wayne and Ellen founded, is a group of spiritual seekers who join together to enrich and ennoble our Jewish minds and spirits by gathering to worship, study, and celebrate Jewish life, loving the richness, warmth, and authenticity of Jewish teachings and tradition, and at the same time, entering and shaping Judaism's coming new era of spiritual Judaism. Here to speak on behalf of the Elijah Minyan is Jack Leaf.
On behalf of the Elijah Minyan, it's my great pleasure to tell you how Rabbi Wayne Dosick has created a deeply connected Jewish spiritual community through his exemplary scholarship, profound compassion, continual integrity, and inspiring spirituality. As our rabbi, he has provided us a living example of how to lead from the heart. Rabbi Dosick has authored numerous books embodying elements both practical and spiritual. My personal favorite, before this one, was the Business Bible, which stresses the importance of ethics in all of our material dealings. He successfully teaches adult bar and bar mitzvah classes, makes Torah teachings relevant to us today. Our members learn Torah and enjoy spirited discussion. No one knows the prayers in the Siddur, their origins, and their history like Rabbi Dosick. Via the Minyan Kehillah Fund, Rabbi Dosick has changed numerous lives in helping those financially less fortunate in a confidential and dignified fashion. Through the Minyan, our community supports Mazon, a Jewish response to hunger and food insecurity, whose goal is to end hunger in this country for everyone. Shopping bags are filled for food pantries. Via the Minyan, clothing and essential ethical immigration support is collected for the stranger in our midst. The Minyan response to the current pandemic mandate for social distancing clearly demonstrates how our rabbi has taken extra steps to support members separated from their synagogue community. Shabbat and high holiday services on Zoom have been supplemented by extra mid-weekly prayer, psalm, and educational offerings. Our rabbi makes a special effort to keep in touch with congregants who are alone, personally checking on people to make sure they're okay. He holds our community together. Since my wife and I moved to San Diego many years ago, the Elijah Minyan has become our second home under Rabbi Dosick's leadership. It enabled us to maintain, strengthen, and broaden our spirituality, and it provides our entire community the opportunity to participate in discussion and Jewish learning. The Minyan's spiritual recipe for being closer to God has provided us all with numerous life-expanding opportunities for success and personal growth. We're truly grateful to have such a dedicated leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And it is now my pleasure to introduce the author of Radical Loving, One God, One World, One People, Rabbi Wayne Dosick.
I'm deeply moved by everything that's been said here today. Many, many thanks to everyone who has spoken. Many thanks to all of you for being here, including my spiritual elders from whom I have learned so much over the years. I can't see everybody. There are a number of screens, but I certainly want to acknowledge the presence of my dear friends, Rabbi Jack Reamer, Rabbi Dr. Yehuda Shabbatai, Dr. Virginia Shabbatai, Rabbi Leah Novick, my elders from whom I have learned. And everything that Jack said about the Minyan is only half right, because the other half is all Ellen. For everything that the Minyan is and does, Ellen is the heart and the soul. So well more than 30 years ago, I was walking the streets of New York around 42nd and Madison. Those of you who know New York will know that I was heading toward Brooks Brothers. And it was a cold, rainy, foggy, yucky day. And I was wearing a hat and gloves and a scarf and a trench coat, carrying a leather briefcase. And as I was walking on Madison Avenue, I saw this woman sitting there holding a baby with a big sign that said, "I am a starving artist, please, and my baby and I are hungry, please help." Now, when I'm in New York or most anywhere, I keep dollar bills in my right pants pocket to give out. I know there's a controversy about whether we should give money like that, but truth be told, I don't care whether the person's going to use it for food or for drugs or for cigarettes or for liquor. If that's what gets them through, then that's what gets them through. Who am I to judge? And so I had one of those raincoats that had a slit in the pocket also. So I reached through the slit of the raincoat pocket and I reached into my pants pocket, and there were no dollars left. I had given them all out. So in sort of that split second where much goes through a mind, I had to say to myself, all right, if I want to give this woman money, I have to stop here, put my leather briefcase down on the wet ground where it may get damp. I have to take off my gloves, unbutton my raincoat, unbutton my sport coat, take out my wallet, give her some money, and then reverse the whole process. And in that split second that I had to make that decision, I walked by her. And the face of that woman has haunted me ever since. For the next 3 days, I was in New York. I went back to 42nd and 43rd and 44th and 45th in Madison, and I went to Fifth Avenue and to Lex and to, she wasn't there. And the face of that woman has haunted me my entire life. I did not see in her that moment shame on me. I did not see in her the face of God. Each and every one of us is created in the image of God. We reflect the face of God. When we look in the mirror, there is the face of God. When we look at another human being, there is the face of God. The Hebrew is panim el panim, face to face. Well, in one place in the Bible, it says you can't see God face to face and live. So Reb Shlomo taught us panim el panim also means from the inside of the insides, from the deepest places within us. From the kishkis, from the guts, we see the face of God. And hopefully when another human being looks at us, he or she sees the face of God. God is here all the time, all the time. We just have to be aware. We just have to be aware. And then when the teller in the bank is taking forever to make the transaction, or the kid in the convenience store can't make change for $1 without using a calculator, or the driver cuts us off in traffic, or we see a person of a different color or a different faith or a different place in life, then we can remember that everyone is a child of God. Everyone reflects the face of God. And the only response to seeing the face of God, the only possible response to seeing the face of God is love. Namaste, the God in me sees and acknowledges the God in you. Over the years, that in many ways grew to be my mantra. It became the subtitle of this book: One God, One World, One People. It became our signature chant, which if you don't know it, you'll hear it at the end of today. And the other chants that we've made up reflect that notion: seeing the face of God, greatest love, to perfect the world in the name of God. Now, truth be told, as you know, we haven't been doing very well lately. We can be proud and happy at what we discover and invent and evolve and enlighten, but we can be nothing less than ashamed and embarrassed by the division and the hatred and the bigotry and the discrimination and the greed and the arrogance and the hubris we display and the disregard we have for this precious planet on which we live. Our words have great power to elevate the human spirit or to crush the human spirit. And the words, the rhetoric that we've been hearing for the last 4 years has demonized the other, has given tacit permission for the worst human instincts to rise to the surface and poison our land, our human family, our collective quest for goodness and righteousness, for decency and dignity, for equality and justice, for compassion and love. The theme song of the world seems to be, my God's better than your God, and my scripture and my principles and my values are better than yours because God loves me more, and God blesses my religion and my country more than God blesses yours. It's impossible. It's just impossible. There is only one God who is the parent of us all. We call that God by different names, but there is one God. Just like as in a family, somebody may be called the male parent father or daddy or papa, mother, mommy, mama. One person, one God, called by different names. But God loves us all equally. God does not play favorites. God says, I love you. I love you, each and every one of you. I love you equally. I hope you will love me. And I hope you will learn to love each other. This is what we call oneness consciousness. Now, oneness consciousness is not sameness. The genesis and the end place are the same, from God to God. But the journey creates a beautiful tapestry. Sometimes we walk the path in quiet silence. Sometimes we walk in joyous singing. Sometimes the path is narrow. Sometimes it's wide. Sometimes it's dark, and sometimes it's gaily decorated. Different pathways. As many of you know, one of my closest friends in the world is Father J.J. O'Leary. He doesn't want me to be Catholic, and I don't want him to be Jewish. We respect and honor each other's paths. I went to Mass. He comes to our high holiday services, where, by the way, the collection that he took up one year was the highest money we ever raised at a called Nidre Appeal. Give it to the priest to do. So we respect the different pathways, but we know there's far more that unites us as children of God than divides us. For me, for us, the shared pathway to oneness consciousness is radical loving. The reality that there is the one God who loves us with greatest love, with eternal love. The reality that our task is to make the life of another as precious to us as our own. To deal with each human being with extreme kindness and compassion and generosity of spirit, to respond to anger and hate and fear with love. And radical loving's twin is awesome holiness, to bring God into our everyday world, to repair and to rejuvenate our battered world, to provide for the needs of individuals and the community. America used to be a melting pot for the collective good, for the common good, for the greatest good, for the highest good. E pluribus unum, out of many one. Now America seems to be a frayed quilt of special interests. We need to weave together the tapestry for the common good, to be a front porch community again. I remember one of the highlights of my childhood was 1959, the year the Chicago White Sox won the American League pennant. And yes, Rabbi David Zaslow, the Dodgers beat us in 6, I know, in the World Series. They're already in LA, David, not still in Brooklyn. But I remember there was a one weekend series, 4 games, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where everybody in the neighborhood was sitting on the front porch with our little transistor radios, listening to the games. And the cheering in the neighborhood was all one. We were all a collective one. And I write in the book about Wally, our gas station attendant. Today, I go into the gas station and I put my credit card into that slot in the gas pump. I spend thousands of dollars in a particular gas station. No one says thank you. No one says thank you for your business. No one knows my name. Wally used to take care of the car, and he knew us by name. And if the car were in trouble, he would come and fix it. Oh, how we long for those days of human connection once again. We need to come to the time again when we protect and love our children more than we disregard our so-called enemies, when we don't put our children into jeopardy with drive-by shootings in that same neighborhood in which I grew up. I give a couple of examples. I give many examples of ways to do this. Here are just a couple that I love. When my kids were little, we tried to follow the teaching of an old sage, Rabbi Tanchum by name, who said every time that he went to the market, if he needed one bunch of vegetables, he'd buy two. If he needed one piece of meat, he would buy two, one for himself and one for the hungry in his midst. So when our kids were little, we would go to the supermarket and buy one extra item of non-perishable food, a box of cereal, a box of mac and cheese, a box of can of tuna fish, a jar of peanut butter. Wouldn't even take it into the house, kept it in a brown paper sack in the trunk of the car. And when we'd filled up 2 or 3 sacks, we took that to the local food pantry. Well, one day I'm in the supermarket with my son, my youngest, who was then maybe 5 years old. And I took a box of cereal off the shelf and I said to him, "How about this for our food gift today?" And he looked at me with a precociousness that he still has as he heads toward his late 40s. He said, "No." And I said, "Why not?" And he grabbed the cereal out of my hand, put it back on the shelf, stood on his tiptoes, took another box of cereal, and said to me, "Look, Ab, look, Dad, there are hungry kids out there, and kids like sugar Frosted Flakes better than we like Cheerios." In an instant, that child taught me to see not a category of people, the hungry, the homeless, the needing, the poor, but the face of a child who likes one kind of cereal better than another. And so when we make our Thanksgiving baskets, not only turkey and yams and cranberries, but a bottle of sparkling apple cider, a bag of colored jelly beans, a nicely decorated cake. Everybody deserves a celebration, not just food. And if somebody needs, and when we give away those old clothes, the ones that are out of fashion or don't fit anymore or take up too much room in the closet, we usually give away a pair of pants or a dress or a suit or a blouse. But if somebody needs a pair of pants, he probably needs a pair of socks, and no one ever thinks to give away a pair of socks. So give away a pair of socks. And if you don't want to give away old socks, for a few bucks, go buy a couple pair and add them to when you go to the shelter. And if somebody needs a pair of socks, he probably needs a toothbrush or toothpaste or soap or feminine hygiene supplies. So give those away also. And when you go to a hotel, no hotel expects you to steal the pillows, but those little bottles of shampoo and conditioner and those little bars of soap, they expect us to take those. 2 or 3 of those little bottles add up. While we buy our fancy, expensive designer shampoos, that little tiny bottle of shampoo is a hair wash or 2 or 3 for somebody in a homeless shelter. This is what I call FANAMI, find a need and meet it. Don't wait for somebody to ask you. When tragedy strikes, we often say to each other, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so terrible for you. What can I do for you? Just tell me. Anything you want, anything you need, let me know, and it's yours." I remember when our house burned down all those years ago. One of the sweetest, kindest, gentlest, and wealthiest men I knew, some of you here knew him, came to me and said, Rabbi, what's mine is yours. Anything you want, you just let me know. What was I going to say? Buy me dinner, buy me a suit, build me a house. What was I going to say to the man? So, of course, I said nothing, and I never asked for anything. So when there is, for example, tragedy, somebody dies, don't say to the mourner, anything you want, just let me know. I'm here to help you. FANAMI, find a need and meet it. Say, I hear your Uncle Charlie is coming in for the funeral. Tell me his flight number and the time that it comes in. I'll go to the airport and pick him up. Or maybe your good suit's at the cleaner. I'll go pick it up for you. Or don't worry about the kids tonight. I'll take them to a movie and pizza. Find a need and meet it. And you know, these days, what people need the most? They need a smile. Because behind these damn masks that are saving us, but keeping us from each other, people need a smile. So if you can't smile with your mouth, smile with your eyes. Or say hello. Say hello. How are you? How you doing? It means a lot. And someone may say hello back. Radical loving and awesome holiness means being godlike in every thought, in every deed, and in every word. There was once a cafeteria line when people would go through the line, and near the dessert part of the line was this big platter full of delicious smelling, brand new baked chocolate chip cookies. And the sign said, please take only one chocolate chip cookie. But of course, not everybody read the sign or listened to it. And as you rounded the chocolate chip cookies, there was another sign which said, please take only one chocolate chip cookie. God is watching. And then we came to the big bowl of shiny red apples. And the sign said, take as many apples as you want. God's watching the chocolate chip cookies. Well, God's watching. As if it were a constantly running film or tape. And you have to ask yourself, what if my every word and deed and thought of today were being recorded on a constantly running film or tape and would be played as tonight's 6 o'clock news on television? And you had to call your parents or your children or your grandchildren and say, watch me in the news tonight. Would you be proud and happy? Or would you be embarrassed and ashamed? That's the way to measure whether we are doing each day radical loving and awesome holiness. And you don't have to be famous. You don't have to be infamous. You don't have to be Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela or Wakalatsa or Bobby Kennedy, whose 53rd yard site we observed yesterday. Oh, how the world would have been different had Bobby lived. Or Elie Wiesel, to whom I dedicated this book, who it turns out whose yard site is exactly today, right now. You don't have to be any of them. But you do need to be Darnella Frazier. Listen to that name, and if you don't remember it from today on. Darnella Frazier. Darnella Frazier, the 17-year-old little girl who had the presence of mind and the courage to keep her iPhone recording for those 9 minutes and 36 seconds, which proved the policeman was the murderer of George Floyd. Constantly running tapes. Courage. Each of us, my friends, is a prophet. You're a prophet. Not just Abraham and Moses and Isaiah and Ezekiel and Jeremiah and Jesus and Muhammad, but you are a prophet. A prophet is a messenger of God. Prayer and thus prophecy has two parts. First, we talk and God listens. And then God talks and we listen. If we listen and see and envision and dream long enough, hard enough, God will communicate with us, and God's message will always be for the highest good, the greatest good. Right now, God is calling to all of us to radical loving, to awesome holiness. God is calling us to heal what is broken, to dream and imagine and envision the greatness that is to be. What a blessing it is to be alive at this moment in time. You know, in the heavens, all the souls vied to come into life in this incarnation at this moment. And we, each one of us, was chosen. You were chosen to be here. A new world is birthing, and we are here. Nothing will ever be the same again. We are the explorers, the pioneers, the architects. Some, including my holy wife, through soul memory discovery and the Cosmic Times, call it the move from 3D to 5D. Some are calling it a new world. I call it an Eden on earth once again. One God, one world, one people united in love. I've been called naive and idealistic and foolish, and a 60s hippie not quite grown up, and a California granola bar, all fruits, flakes, and nuts. Well, perhaps I am. But you remember the harmonic conversion back in 1987? A whole bunch of us stood in a circle around the earth, held hands, and sang songs. We were going to change the world, and the world laughed at us. But you know what? Within months, the Soviet Union fell, the satellite countries fell, blacks and whites were riding the bus together in Johannesburg, Protestants and Catholics stopped shooting each other in Northern Ireland, and once in a while, Israelis and Arabs sat down in peace talks. When we send the love vibration out to the world, it spirals back to us. If we send hate and fear and anger, that will spiral back. But if we send love, it will spiral back and fill the earth. So I, and I hope you with me, will continually shout out the pathway to the new world, to 5D, to Eden on earth, to radical loving, is radical loving and awesome holiness. There was a Native American tribe that when rain was needed, did a rain dance. And whenever that tribe danced, it rained. All the other tribes around, it didn't rain. But this tribe did its rain dances and it rained. And so finally someone came to the chief and said, why do you think it is that when the other Native American tribes dance, it doesn't rain, but when you dance, it does? And the chief said, we just keep dancing until it rains. Keep dancing, my friends. Keep dancing with radical loving and awesome holiness.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Rabbi Wayne, for that very deep and inspiring message. Wow. The Hebrew prayer, Modim, is an expression of gratitude and thanksgiving. This powerful musical version was composed by cantor Elisa Pomerantz-Boro, formerly of San Diego and now of New Jersey. As an expression of gratitude for the messages and ideas and teachings and guidance in radical loving, it is sung for us today by cantor Sue Knight Deutsch of Orange County, California. Modim, we give thanks to you, O God.
Modim, modim, modim anachnu lach. Modim, modim, modim anachnu lach. Modim, 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 anachnu lach. Sha'atahu Adonai Eloheinu Velohei Avoteinu Leolam Vaed Leolam Vaed Modim 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 Anachnu Lach Modim 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 Anachnu Lach Modim Modim Modim.
Oh, thank you so much, Cantor Sue. Wow, beautiful. And a thank you to all the presenters, to everyone who sang or chanted or inspired us with their words, and to Rabbi Wayne for that extraordinary message. There were over 100 people here at one point today, which I think is incredible. And so for me, after I read Radical Loving, it just made me want to go out and do good, to be good and do good. And so I invite you all to love radically, to love yourself, others, the whole world, one God, one world, one people. And the sound of the shofar, the ancient ram's horn, was heard at Sinai as God gave us the sublime instructions for how we are to behave with each other to elevate the human experience and the human spirit. Echoing through the centuries, the compelling sound of the shofar penetrates our souls and calls us to oneness consciousness, to wholehearted devotion to God, to the ingathering from physical and spiritual exile, to the prophetic vision of harmony and peace, to love and compassion and holiness, to the jubilant shout of joy at the moment of the long-awaited redemption for us and our world. Dr. Wayne Padover, the Elijah Minyan's Baal Tekiah, sounds the shofar for us on this day of celebration, this day of hope and promise, this day of our communal and personal commitment to radical loving and awesome holiness. Please let the sound of the shofar enter your heart. Please hearken to its call. Great.
Be joyful and happy, joyful and happy. Be joyful and be happy and be glad. Be joyful and happy, joyful and happy. Be joyful and be happy and be glad. Come to God with love in your heart. Come to God with light in your your soul. Be joyful and happy, joyful and happy. Be joyful and be happy and be glad. Be joyful and happy, joyful and happy. Be joyful and be happy and be glad. Bye 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 bye. Bye 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 bye. Be joyful and happy, joyful and happy. Be joyful and be happy and be glad. Be joyful and happy, joyful and happy. Be joyful and be happy and be glad.
Thank you, Cantor. Thank you all. Each of you is another layer of blessing as this beautiful book is birthed into a world that has been eagerly yearning for and awaiting its message of love and oneness. And none of this would be today without the really hard work and technological genius of Denny Finney, who we thank from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you for enabling all of this. We are so grateful. And we thank so many of you. First and foremost, we thank Annie Klein, definitely the hostess with the mostess. You got a permanent job, honey. And particularly, of course, Cantor Kevin, who your angelic voice and extraordinary musicianship just lifts us to God all the time.
Well, it's my honor and my privilege to be associated with you as friends and colleagues, and we go back decades. And it's my real honor to be part of this CD project. I love you both. Thank you.
We love you. Thank you so much. And thank you to Cantor Sunite Deutsch. Such a gorgeous modem. Oh my goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to Dr. Wayne Padover for cracking open our hearts with your chauffeur, as you always do. We're so grateful for your presence in our lives. We thank Cantor Deborah Kochko-Gray. We thank you, Judith and Jack Leaf. Thank you so much. We are so honored by your friendship. Thank you. A very, very special thanks to our visionary publisher, Paul Cohen, and his amazing team at Monkfish Publishing for making such a beautiful book. Thank you to Colin Rolfe, to Dory Mayo, and for the beautiful cover design and inside beauty of the book, to Glenn Edelstein. Thank you so much. We thank our magnificent team, Ginger Price at Monkfish, and Sarah Scarlett and Eileen Gaffin, who are taking this book out to the world. And a very special thanks to Lon, who is in the process of building us the most beautiful website. We thank all of you for picking up this book and enjoying it, reading it. And this is a book that will get attention by word of mouth. So please tell all your friends and get the word out. And if you have lists, put it out on your lists. And if you want to write a review on Amazon, we would be so grateful. And if you want to put a personal review up on Amazon, that would be tremendously helpful. We have a very, very, very special thank you from the deepest parts of our hearts to both Rabbi Leah Novick, our teacher extraordinaire, who we owe our hearts and souls to in many ways. And a tremendous, huge thank you to you, John Sweeney, for your beautiful, beautiful words and for being such a rich and deep and lovely soul brother. Thank you. Thank you so much. Soon we will have a website, probably this week, and you can go to the website. It's radicallovingbook.com, and there you will find all the music of all the 21 chants, and you can purchase it as a download, or you can get the CD if you still do that dinosaur stuff. Either way, you will love it, and all the music, download or CD, comes with all the lyrics. And very, very specially, for those of you living in this area of Southern California, next week at this time, Sunday, June 13th from 2 to 5, we are staging an event to end all events. It is a drive-by book signing. So we will have, by the gift of Jonah and Rebecca, we will have all a rabbi's books and CDs out in front of the house with delicious goodies and drinks, and there will be the rabbi himself to sign all the books and with his little blue pen. And if you have already gotten a book, just bring it along with you and he will be thrilled to sign it to you. So this is really incredible. We so look forward to seeing you. To make this truly an act of radical loving, we're asking that when you come by, not only do you have masks and we socially distance, but that you also bring a bag of food, and we will take it right after the event. We'll take it over to St. Andrew's Food Pantry, and they will hand it out for us. So we so look forward to seeing all you locals here next week. And really an immense thank you to all of you for blessing us with your presence. We feel so honored to be with you. Thank you so much. And we conclude this magnificent day with the signature chant of radical loving, one God, one world, one people.
One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. Eden on earth. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. Eden on earth. One God, one world, one people united in love. One God, one world, one people united in love. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. Eden on earth. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. Eden on. La 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 la. One God, one hayom 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 yom hayom 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 hayom. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. Eden on earth. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. One God, one world, one people. Eden on earth.
As you have been blessed coming to this place, so may you be blessed as you leave this place. Take with you the firm affirmation: there is one God, there is one world, there is one people. We together can bring Eden to earth once again. Amen. Be amen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.